When I was a kid, I was not always seen. I was not always the most taken care of, and I had to learn from an early age how to take care of myself, how to take care of my sister, and how to take care of my parents. So my older brother lived in Alaska with his dad, and my dad was battling cancer for a good part of my childhood. And at the age of 8, my mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is very debilitating, and she was in a wheelchair a lot of the time growing up. I was also a middle child, and I had severe middle child syndrome. Where are my middle children at? You don't always feel seen, and it can feel like everything lands on your shoulders. That's how I felt. Well, for me, that was my reality. And it was my reality up into my teen years. And the childhood I had caused a lot of confusion and strife with my relationship with other people, my teachers, my grandparents, my siblings, and Jesus. I did not understand how Jesus could actually care for me and how he saw my potential. And that makes me wonder how many of you have had similar experiences. Do you know the love of Jesus? He not only cares about me, he cares about all of us. And that was something that I didn't understand as a child, and I didn't understand until long after I was married with children. I said that I understood, but the reality is that I didn't. That brings me to Luke 15, 1-7. And it talks about this. It's the parable of the lost sheep. And parables are earthly stories with heavenly meaning, and that is what Jesus used to speak to people and teach people during his ministry. They were a way that he could connect with the culture and get the people he was speaking to understand what he was trying to say and what he was trying to teach. The parable of the lost sheep is about a shepherd, who loses one sheep. He has 99 sheep, and he loses the one, but he goes after that one anyway, because even though he has many more sheep, that one sheep still matters. Because he does that because he cares and loves about all of his sheep. Let's read the passage Luke 15, 1-7 together. Tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. This made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associated with such sinful people, even eating with them. So Jesus told this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go to search for the one that's lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry him home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, because I have found my lost sheep." In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. Whenever I read this passage, I think about taking my kids to the grocery store. And I'm sure every parent in here can relate how crazy that can be. The thing is my kids, when COVID hit, they didn't go into a grocery store for months. And so all of their grocery store manners had disappeared. And it was crazy. And I have 4 little children, and right now they're all 5 and under. And so taking them into the grocery store is just a madhouse. And I get comments all the time like, "Oh, you have your hands full." And there's been a couple times where people have actually said, "You wouldn't even know if one went missing." And that happened to me in Winco. And the thing about it is I would definitely notice, because each of one of my kids has a very unique place in my heart, and I care about them in such a unique way that I would definitely notice if one went missing. And I'm not the only parent that would. I'm sure every parent in this room would notice if their child went missing in a grocery store. And that's how God cares for his sheep. He absolutely does notice if even just one goes missing. Jesus cares about finding all of his sheep, just as the Good Shepherd does. I have another story. I have chickens, and the other day, the wind blew the top off of my chickens. So I have the chicken coop, and then I have the chicken run, and I have a little netting over that to keep the chickens in. So it was super windy because I live up in the mountains, and it blew the top off my chicken coop. And it was already dark out, and I hear a knock on my door, and it's the neighbor boy. And he told me that my chickens were all over the neighborhood. And when I went to see how many got out and who I needed to be looking for, I realized that they had all gotten out, but some of them had stayed in the backyard. So I knew that some of them were safe and where they needed to be. So I could relax on that a little bit. And as I was trying to get them back into the coop, I was trying to figure out who was missing. And I realized once we were counting and putting them back in the coop, there was one missing, which was perfect for this message. But that's how it ended up. So I still had one missing. And I ran with those neighbor boys. I ran up and down my street for hours looking for my lost chicken. And I did that because I value my chickens, and I really wanted to find that one that had gotten out. And Jesus cares about everyone that way. He talked to everyone. He noticed if that one chicken was standing in the back, and he cared about that. And this was not a popular idea with the religious leaders. If we're being honest, it's not popular with today's society either. It's really easy to not care about the person sitting in the back. It's really easy to gawk at the person that is struggling with addictions, or that maybe isn't the most stand-up mom or dad. But the thing is Jesus cared about everybody. And we live in a cancel culture society today, and we can reject or cancel a company or celebrity for saying something wrong or having an unpopular opinion. And that is just not what Jesus did. Although there was a lot of people who would probably cancel Jesus if they could at that time. Jesus embraced and loved everyone, no matter their background, no matter what their current sins were, or how they were living. He did nothing but love and accept. Luke 19:10, if we all want to turn to Luke 19:10, I'll give you a moment. It says, "For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost." We have all been lost and separated from God's love at one point. We all have to make the decision to follow him. And Jesus' whole mission while he was here on earth in his ministry was to find us and make a way for us to be reunited with the Father and with him. One of the amazing things about a good shepherd is the fact that he is willing to lay his life down for his sheep. And I'm going to make another parent point that I know I can, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that can say that we would do anything for our children to make sure they're fed, to make sure they're clothed. If we had to lay down our lives, I'm sure we would. And Jesus did just that. He was willing to lay down his life for his sheep. John 10:11 tells us about this. It says, "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep." Jesus did that. He was sent down to earth to care for and to love his sheep and offer himself up as the living and final sacrifice, so everyone has the opportunity to reunite with the Father. Jesus is the definition of a good shepherd. He is. He's what a good shepherd is. And that's so fun when I realized that writing this sermon. So my 4-year-old son was born at 26 weeks, and he was born with tubes and He was born with a feeding tube and the ventilator, and he had all these bells and whistles on him to keep him alive because he wasn't growing. He couldn't breathe on his own. He was a mess. And it took a lot of fight and it took a lot of prayer to keep him alive for the first few months of his life. And as his mom, I wanted nothing more than to see him thrive and survive. And I was on my knees praying constantly and reaching out to people to pray. And I did every possible human thing that I could do. I went to bat with doctors and nurses, and there were several times where they told me, no, this isn't looking good. He's not going to survive this. And it was always so disheartening, but I absolutely refused to give up. And it's still a battle to this day, but I will never give up on my son. And this is the kind of love that Jesus has for us. Jesus not only finds his sheep, he rescues his sheep. And I looked up the definition of saved, and the definition of saved is to rescue from danger. Let's be real here. Humans can be a danger to themselves because of our sin nature. Sin can wreak absolute havoc on our lives. And ultimately, without the love and sacrifice of Jesus, sin would keep us from the Father and getting to heaven. We need Jesus to rescue us. Without Jesus, I would be a mess. I mess up parenting all the time. I mess up being a wife all the time. And I need Jesus. John 3:18 says this: "There is no judgment against anyone who believes in him, but anyone who does not believe in him has already been judged for not believing in God's one and only Son." The verse I just read stresses me out a little bit. I'm saved, and Jesus has rescued me. But I know people that have not been saved yet. People that I love and care about. People in my own family and in my own friends group that don't believe in Jesus. And I wonder, do you? Do you believe in Jesus? Do you know people that don't believe in Jesus? Do you know where those people are going to end up? Will they be judged? That verse and realization stirs me up and makes me want to find Jesus for everyone. And Jesus sacrificed himself so lovingly for all of those people. Another cool thing about all of this is that Jesus made it so sin has no power over us anymore. Sin doesn't have to define who we are. Sin doesn't have to wreak havoc on our lives anymore. Romans 6:11-14 explains the fact that sin has no hold on us anymore. It says, "So you also should consider yourselves to be dead to the power of sin and alive to God through Christ Jesus. Do not let sin control the way you live. Do not give in to sinful desires. Do not let any part of your body become an instrument of evil to serve sin. Instead, give yourselves completely to God. For you were dead, but now you have new life. So use your whole body as an instrument to do what is right for the glory of God. Sin is no longer your master, for you no longer live under the requirements of the law. Instead, you live under the freedom of God's grace." If you're anything like me, you might be wondering the question, this is great and all, but how do I apply this to my life? I'm not always the best at hearing a sermon and then applying it to my own life. So you might be wondering. You might be saying, I don't have time to go catch sheep or chickens. I don't know how to talk about Jesus. I have some challenges for you. Is there something in your life that's holding you back from caring for and finding the sheep? For me, for a long time, it was the pain of my childhood. and not always being taken care of, at no fault of my parents. But it was hard for me to get over that, and it was hard for me to believe that Jesus could care about me enough. It was the doubt that someone could care about me enough to die on a cross for me, as Jesus did. What is holding you back? What do you need to lay at his feet and surrender to him? And that also makes me wonder, are you following Jesus? Have you taken the next step, the next life-changing step, to say yes to him and to accept the sacrifice that he made for you? John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have everlasting life." The thing is, it doesn't say if the pastor believes in him. It doesn't say if the mom without depression believes in him. It doesn't say if the girl who has never done drugs believes in him. It doesn't say if the doctor believes in him. It says whoever believes in him will not perish, but have everlasting life. Whoever is a big word there. And Jesus so badly wants to see everybody come to Jesus. And you might be thinking throughout this message, well, I've just messed up too much. I have done horrible things. I've gone to jail. I've said things to my spouse that I can't take back. What would Jesus do with my life? And I get that because I have also been there. I've been there. But you are seen and you are loved. And Jesus cares about you. Out of the 99, he cares about you and he wants to find you. And he will leave the 99 in the wilderness to find you if you let him in. Thank you.